I want to quickly go over analysis paralysis and how it can screw up your life as well as your projects. To keep it very short, I spent 4 days just staring at my screen, figuring out the best way to batch triangles. I wanted to make it in a way where every element in my scene, or every object, or every player, or character, or monster would just tell the renderer, I want to render these triangles, and that's it. And then I wanted all of that information to be gathered, sorted in order, and by particular textures so that I could limit the amount of draw calls I needed to make. To do this in C# is very difficult because you're used to using objects or structs or something like that and passing over the data. And passing over data is very slow because you're copying a memory. So ideally, you wanted to have a way to edit the data on the fly. And to do that, you need to have a reference to an object. Now, I made eventually, I ended up just doing something because I had an idea on how to do it, but I just kept postponing it because it wasn't good enough. And it didn't make much sense, so I spent more time just thinking in my head. So ultimately, what I did is I just started because I knew if I just wrote an array of structs and I loaded that in and I passed that information to the GPU, it would already be better than creating the array of structs dynamically. I had one array struct. Wasn't good enough though because I wanted to edit the elements without copying data. So I would have to store a reference. The problem is when you store the reference, you have to do a lookup table because a reference only stays consistent inside of the scope. And this has to do with memory allocation and the GC and how memory is moved around. So I kept the reference, which also was pretty fast. But then I was wondering, why can't I just have a pointer? Now, before I started the whole project, I thought I'm going to have to go to C++ because it's the only way to do this without allocations and using pointers. Turns out C# has this, so you can allocate your own memory, unmanaged memory. Better yet, you can take the unmanaged memory, get a pointer to it, and then set the data. The only issue is it's a bit difficult because you have to manage your own memory, but you get used to it. And eventually, I came up with a system where I had pointers. So now, instead of keeping a reference and doing a lookup for that reference, the integer, like the ID, I kept an actual memory address and I updated that. But that also could be made faster. And the way I could make it faster is by not holding a reference to a triangle, but holding a reference to the actual vertexes. And after I had that done, there was more things I could improve. For instance, I could instead of looping over every object and calling the update function as I'm doing now, I can make a simple system function that implements the same functionality in a single for loop, but you're not creating more stacks, you're not making more function calls. So the point of this is, I would have never reached this place if I didn't just make something, because I was in my head making it, but there was no real physical manifestation of the work that I was thinking about. And so I ended up nowhere. And that's analysis paralysis, because you're seeing all these issues. My point is to get somewhere in life, you have to just do it. You have to make something, make it suck. You have to publish it, ideally. And then with the suggestions or the changes that you see, implement the changes. And then once you've done that, clean up your project. And then make some changes. It will make a mess, which is perfect. The mess is perfect. The mess is what's the progress. And then you clean the mess. And this is the process you want to be in constantly. Because if you're not making a mess, you're not doing anything, you're not going anywhere. And this is how I've so far managed inside of C# to dynamically change 1 million triangles in about 22 milliseconds per frame. Obviously, you can see the 14 milliseconds for rendering. The noise you're seeing is just the changes to each individual triangle. I have triangles that are about 0.5 pixels, I guess. This here, the random function, is also a big overhead. So if I were to cancel this out, and by that I mean set it to a static value just for now, it should also be a bit faster. But obviously, the triangles will all be in the top left corner. You're not going to see them, but you can see it drop down to about 18 milliseconds. But my point is, people, the way to get over depression, at least for me, is to just do things, even if you don't want to. And the way to get over analysis paralysis is just to do things. And the way everything in life seems to be is you just one day you decide, you know what, I'm going to do it, even if it's not going to look good.